Have you ever paid your rent and thought, I'm making my landlord rich while I get nothing in return? It's one of the most common money frustrations people have. Every month, hundreds or even thousands leave your bank account. And all you have to show for it is another month in the same apartment. Meanwhile, your landlord owns the property. The house gets more valuable. The mortgage gets paid down. And it feels like you're funding someone else's wealth. Nobody taught us this stuff in school. That's what this channel is for. Subscribe. It's free, and honestly, it might be the best financial decision you make today. But here's the uncomfortable question. What if buying a house isn't automatically the wealth-building move people think it is? Because the rent versus buy debate is far more complicated than most people realize. And in some situations, renting can actually leave you wealthier. Let's talk about why. Most people grow up hearing the same advice: renting is throwing money away. So naturally, buying a home becomes a major life goal. It feels responsible, mature, financially smart. And honestly, there is some truth behind that idea. When you own a home, part of your mortgage payment builds equity. In simple terms, you're gradually owning more of the property. That sounds great. But here's where many people stop thinking. Because they compare rent payment, agra money gone, versus mortgage payment, agra investment. And that's not entirely accurate. Because owning a home comes with costs that people often forget about. Let's use a simple example. Imagine two people. Sarah rents an apartment for $1,500 per month. James buys a home and has a mortgage payment of $1,500 per month. At first glance, they seem equal. Same monthly cost. Same housing expense. But look closer. James doesn't just pay the mortgage. He also pays property taxes, home insurance, maintenance repairs, service charges. Suddenly, his real housing cost might look like this. Mortgage, $1,500 property taxes, $200 insurance, $100 maintenance average, $200 total monthly housing cost. $2,000 now the comparison changes. Sarah pays $1,500. James pays $2,000. That's a $500 difference every month. And this is where things get interesting. What if Sarah invested that extra $500? Let's do the math. If Sarah invested $500 per month into a broad stock market, ETF earning an average 8% annual return after 10 years, contributions, $60,000 portfolio, $91,000 after 20 years. Contributions, $120,000. Portfolio, $295,000 after 30 years. Contributions, $180,000. Portfolio, $745,000. That's nearly £750,000, simply from investing the difference. Now, obviously, James owns a home that may have increased in value too, but that's exactly the point. The answer isn't automatically buy or automatically rent. The answer depends on the numbers. Here's something fascinating. People often view rent as a loss, but they don't view mortgage interest the same way. Let's say someone pays $1,500 monthly toward a mortgage. In the early years, a large portion of that payment may be interest. That money isn't building ownership either. It's simply the cost of borrowing money. Yet psychologically, it feels better because you're a homeowner. Why? Because humans love ownership. Ownership feels like progress. Rent feels temporary. And feelings often influence financial decisions more than math. That's why some people stretch their finances to buy homes they can barely afford, not because the numbers make sense, because the emotional reward feels powerful. A bigger house, a nicer neighborhood, the feeling of making it. But sometimes that emotional decision creates years of financial pressure. The real question isn't, am I paying my landlord's mortgage? The real question is, which option leaves me with the highest net worth and the most flexibility? Because wealth isn't just about owning property. It's about owning assets that grow over time. For some people, a home is the perfect asset. For others, renting cheaply while investing aggressively can be the better move. The truth is that houses are both a place to live, a financial asset. And sometimes people focus so much on the second part that they forget about the first. A home should improve your life, not become a financial burden you spend decades worrying about. If you're deciding whether to rent or buy, don't ask, which one sounds smarter? Ask, which one works better for my situation? Compare. Mortgage payment, property taxes, insurance, maintenance costs, expected investment returns, your job stability, how long you plan to stay, and most importantly, run the actual numbers. Because financial decisions should be based on math first and emotions second, not the other way around. So is your landlord getting rich off you? Maybe, but that doesn't automatically mean buying would make you richer. Sometimes the person paying rent is quietly investing and building wealth. Sometimes the homeowner is quietly drowning in expenses. And sometimes the opposite is true. That's why the rent versus buy debate isn't really about houses. It's about understanding opportunity cost, flexibility, and long-term wealth building. Because the smartest financial decision isn't the one that impresses people today. It's the one that gives your future self the most freedom tomorrow. And sometimes that answer isn't as obvious as people think.